when the British left, despite the fact that we became independent, the prices of medicines did not go down. That's what the expectation was, and they were going up. The Indian industry was not flourishing at all, the generic industry, owned by Indians.
Pharmaceutical industry, when India got independence, it was completely under the control of multinational corporations, or the so-called transnational corporations. There is a famous 1957 report by the US Senate noting that the world's highest medicine price was in India.
So there was a big inquiry by very renowned people, judges, and ultimately we changed the law. The new Patent Act of 1970 came into being.
One of the most important provisions which the 1970 Act incorporated, which has got lot of significance for health, is that it took out product patent regime from the fields of pharmaceuticals and agrochemicals.
The abolition of product brought the competition. For each major product, there were 30 to 100 brands competing with each other.
Indian generic industry flourished and became the dominant industry in India and started exporting. From 1988, we became net exporters of medicines, and now from 98 onwards, it is the leading generic industry in the world.
In India, I think one of the important things which distinguishes India from other countries, one is that the pharmaceutical companies in India are very strong. That's one of the strengths of the country. They are able to produce generic medicines at a very cheap cost.
Indian pharmaceutical industry is by far the largest in the developing world, and by volume it is the third largest. And India exports to about 200 countries, and we make almost the entire range of medicines essential, including new medicines.
About 10 million people in developing countries are access to antiretroviral drugs, generic drugs, 80% coming from India, and that itself shows our government commitment.
So it's a key source of generic, safe and quality pharmaceuticals to the developing world. That's why it's called the pharmacy of the world. But things changed. The multinationals through developed countries practically forced the developing world to enter into the TRIPS agreement.
So just to give an history, TRIPS is an agreement which stands for trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, is part of the final act of Uruguay Round, which establishes the World Trade Organization. So this agreement is given as a package to countries, especially to developing countries. Either take it or leave it. You cannot choose. If you want to be in the WTO, you have to agree on TRIPS agreement.
I think it's most important to understand that trade agreements are not always about trade. And the first one that we signed, which was the World Trade Organization's trade agreement, brought in patents and undid an entire system that existed for 30 years to build local capacity.
Now, while granting product patents, India does realize, and there has been a lot of debate on this issue, that if you do grant product patents, then what happens, especially in the field of medicines, this will become the monopoly of certain people, and the public health will be held to ransom by a certain group of people or by a certain group of companies.
Very basically what patents do is they prevent local companies from producing much more affordable versions of the same medicine.
Now, if this industry gets taken over again by the multinational corporations, we go back 40 years. 50 years of struggle, 50 years of building this industry goes to nothing.
Now, this position post 1995, and particularly after 10-year transition period under TRIPS from 2005 has changed. India has become subject to product patent. As a result, large number of new medicines which are produced and marketed only by one company, and this is a multinational company, they have a monopoly in the market, and prices of this medicine is so prohibitive that not even 0.1% of India's population of more than 1 billion people can afford these medicines.
India has one of the poorest public health systems. So often when people are sick, when people require medicines the most, they have to buy medicines from the retail market.
Now, fortunately, Indians have been idiosyncratic. You know, we don't follow the world the way we should follow. So we didn't have a patent law which had product patent protection. And from 2005, a lot of thinking went into it, and amongst the civil society and community also there was a lot of thinking. And we found that what was happening in the developed world was the new pharmaceuticals that were coming on the market were not genuinely new novel compounds. 75% were just replicas or new forms of known substances.
In the West, generally what happens that one comes with a new product, and after 15 to 18 years of having enjoyed the patent life, they make a minor modification in that formulation or the drug and apply for another patent. And like this, they go on keeping the patent alive, so the monopoly remains alive.
It is a strategy of various companies to first take a patent on the first molecule, take another patent on the polymorph, take a patent on the tablet, take a patent on the injection, and so on and so forth. So the second generation, third generation, and so on, other formulation and other patents. It is a strategy which they have, and there are normally many companies which do keep taking patents on second generation, third generation kind of compounds, or even other variants of the same compound.
We introduced major changes in the law to provide for product patent protection, but also we provided a new provision which is known as the 3D of the Patent Act, which says that new forms of known substances would not be patented unless they are significantly more efficacious than the known substance.
So what section 3D says is very simple. What it says is that we will not in India allow patents for trivial innovations. We will allow patents for major innovations. The Indian law now allows it.
Ball pen is for writing a paper. So you invent it and the color is blue. You get patent, you ask for a patent, and it's a real innovation, you get 20 years on pen, blue pen, and before the end of the 20 years, what did you do is, you don't change the pen, you change the refill into red, and get another 20 years. Before the end of 40 years, you change that red into green, and another 60 years. And before the 60-year end, you change another into purple and get. So this is called evergreening. But Section 3D doesn't allow this. Our Indian patent law doesn't allow this.
India said that this tweaking of formulation we would not permit unless there is a significant enhancement in the efficacy of the drug by tweaking that formulation.
By simply modifying or putting one drugs and one drugs together, that's not new or that's not invention, which Section 3D doesn't allow. But in the West, in the Europe and in the United States, this law is allowed. And this is what bucks and pistol the multinational companies because they don't really do innovation or invention.
Now the case which has attracted worldwide attention so far as Indian Patents Act is concerned, it has come to be known as the Novartis case after the company's name.
So the Novartis case is basically about what kind of patents you really grant or deserve a patent. What kind of applications, what kind of inventions deserve a patent.
So Novartis case was one of the first case which was on a drug called Gleevec, which is to treat chronic myeloid leukemia. And basically they wanted the beta crystalline form of a known substance, which was the imatinib mesylate or the imatinib based compound, to be patented.
It's only the polymorph, the second generation, which Novartis is trying to get a patent in India.
The medicines like imatinib mesylate, which is using for the treatment of chronic myeloid leukemia, which is not available at free of cost in Indian public healthcare facility. So therefore, it is important that these medicines should be available at an affordable cost.
The generic product is about $100 a month, and Novartis's product is 200,000 rupees a month, that is $4,000 a month. So we have to choose between $100 and $4,000. So of course, we are not saying that everyone who needs it gets it, but the larger number of people are able to access it.
So this drug is very essential, and since one does not know if all the cells which contain this particular pathogenesis or pathogenetic event has occurred in these cells, whether this is completely cured or not is not a certainty. And therefore the drug is recommended always lifelong for the patients who have been diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia.
We were the first group to oppose it, the Cancer Patient Aid Association. I appeared as a lawyer for them, and they lost. They lost there. Once they lost that, they realized that unless they challenge the 3D provision, they will never be able to succeed. Now, they challenged, they lost. And the Madras High Court held that this provision was to protect public health.
And the judge basically said, no, it's not unconstitutional to save lives. We have a right to health, and we will balance this patent law with that.
So they lost there, and then they were relegated to the appellate board. In the appellate board, they still lost on 3D. Now it's important to understand, in the Patent Controller Office, they lost on novelty, obviousness and 3D. But in the appellate board, they won on novelty and obviousness, but they lost on 3D.
So the IPAB felt, after hearing the parties and after considering all the evidence, that there is no better treatment, no better effect on the patients offered by polymorph. Therefore, they rejected the patent. Novartis then went right up to the Supreme Court.
So Novartis approached the Supreme Court of India against the rejection of their patent application at the Intellectual Property Appellate Board. And one of their primary argument is that there is no clarity with regard to the word of efficacy.
3D talks about efficacy. A new form of a known substance can be patented in India if it is significantly more efficacious than the known substance. So first, what is the meaning of efficacy?
So Novartis found here a very fine way of approaching it, saying that since the word efficacy is not defined in the Patents Act, it can be interpreted by the patent examiner.
So the idea is to dilute the threshold level of Section 3D requirement or to dilute the requirement under the section 3D. Therefore, patents can be obtained much more easily.
Now, to be very clear, the kind of price that imatinib costs in the Indian market when Novartis sells it, it is something like 100 times the minimum wage of an Indian worker. So, it is clear that Novartis cannot have a secure market, because there will be actually very few people, including even in people who are rich, who can buy at that cost. So, it is not as if Novartis is really trying to secure its market. What Novartis is trying to do is that it is trying to change that section of the Indian law which provides protection to patients, which provides protection to Indian companies so that they can produce generic medicines and make them available at cheaper cost. So, it is a attack on the sovereign law of a sovereign country by a multinational corporation. That is clearly what it is.
So in some ways, Novartis represents the big face of big pharma in India, whether it's Pfizer or Abbott or Gilead or itself. They have used the rejection of one patent application to challenge Indian law repeatedly.
And the whole of the multinationals are behind them. It's not that they are just arguing for themselves. They may have paid the lawyers, I don't know.
If Novartis wins this case, then that would constitute a dilution of patentability criteria in India.
Novartis is questioning in section 3D of India's Patent Act. Now, if Novartis wins in this case, it's potentially a disaster for not only India but all developing countries which cannot afford these medicines.
So if 3D is actually altered by judicial interpretation to our, against us as it were, to our interests which are adverse to us, then it will affect the production of generic medicines in India. But because generic medicines are actually exported and impact the developing world, it also impact access to medicines in the developing world, not only antiretrovirals, cancer medicines, diabetic medicines.
Why we fight is it's about my body inside here is going to affect if Novartis win. For the last 10 years, my HIV is under suppress. It's going to wake up. Why? Because Novartis, if they win the section 3D, and section 3D is taken out from our patent law, then all our generic will be stopped, and if our generic will be stopped, then people living with HIV/AIDS won't be able to access to these generic medicines. So it's not just about Novartis or branded medicine or cancer medicine or just HIV, but it's affect people living with HIV/AIDS directly. So it's not just a cancer medicine.
This is the court case that will determine access for everybody in developing countries. So many organizations have joined into the campaign. There's Treatment Action Campaign in South Africa, many others. But if you ask me, the biggest role has been played by an independent Cancer Patient Aid Association who decided not to take just the donations and just shut its mouth, but decided to go to court to protect access to treatment.
But they want to challenge it because it hurts their pockets. Because now Gleevec, for instance, the first year turnover of profits was $1 billion. So if they can't get that money in India, they can lose it if similar laws are in place in other countries like Brazil, in Thailand, or big countries, developing countries. It can actually set them back.
Their concern may also be that if a good quality Gleevec is available in India at such a low price, the regulatory authorities in US and Europe may start questioning what is that. Look, why your price is so high?
You see, this has been a very favorite argument of all the companies that R&D cost is the reason for the high price. But in effect, if you see, the R&D which has been done by these companies is not only for India. The R&D actually is done for the patients all over the world. And if one calculates the actual amount of R&D done and versus the amount of money recovered, so it completely overcompensates, not just compensates, it overcompensates. So R&D, really speaking, cannot be said to be a argument for the high price.
The case has been going on for 7 years now, and this is probably the 8th year that it's going on. The decision from the Supreme Court is awaited.
So if Novartis case is in our favor, then momentum may be used by not only us, civil society, but even WHO should be able to push this agenda and ask and request other countries to use similar provisions which do not allow new forms of known substances to be patented.
I think developed countries have not taken India to court at the WTO dispute panel for the simple reason that it opens a Pandora's box for them. South Africa might want to think about it because they might want to change their law, and Thailand might want to think about it, and maybe several other countries might want to think about it. There's a lot of merit in this law. There's a lot of good things in this law. They might want to adopt it for themselves. Why give unnecessary publicity to the Indian law, which could indeed turn into a very big campaign in itself?
Yes, one must grant patents. One must recognize the efforts of the multinationals. One must give them rights. But one has to also balance it against public health and against the patient's care. If ultimately these products are not available to the public, or they are available only to the cream of the people, then the mass cannot be allowed to die. The government would be abdicating its duties if it allowed such a situation to happen.
If we are to secure the generic industry, not because we love a private industry, but because it is the lifeline of drugs for entire continents, in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. For the poorest, it is Indian drugs which provide the last hope, and this is what we are hoping to secure.
My complaint is that people do not read the opening of the TRIPS agreement, particularly Articles 7 and 8. Both Articles 7 and 8, it is very clearly mentioned that the intellectual property rights regime should serve the interest of public, the community, the economic and social development of people and all that.
So I think what developed countries don't want and Big Pharma don't want is that countries examine patent applications themselves, apply their own technical expertise. They do not want that. They do not want anybody to challenge their patent applications. They should be blindly rubber stamped, registered. Whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter. As long as the United States is granting them, everybody should grant them.
One may not do it for a music system. One may not do it for a television. One may not do it for an automobile. But when it comes to life and death, making products affordable, so innovation has to be used. And this is the philosophy which India is pursuing when it comes to pharmaceutical.
that I think is the most important for us is the provision that is there that you will have local examination on patent applications. Very often that is missing in many developing countries. So people just assume just because the patent has been granted in the United States, you should also grant it. But India has a local examination system. And to make it more vibrant and make it work, they brought in third parties. That means if my medicine is affected, I can actually oppose the patent. So there was local examination, pre-grant opposition of patent applications, and that has led to rejection of a large number of medicines for HIV and cancer. It's not a perfect system, but if you are from a patient group or a public interest group and you want to protect some medicines, you can do that. And that's the most important take-home message from the patent law, that it gives patients the right to go and oppose patents, which is often missing in the United States system, in the South African system. It's too short a period in Thailand, for example, only 3 months available. In Argentina, it costs $10,000 to translate the documents. In India, you can do it for nothing.
India has one provision, many countries do not have it, but it's a very good provision that after the patent application is published in the patent journal, then any person can raise an objection against it. This is known as pre-grant objection. In my view, this should be there in all countries, because no patent examiner is an omniscient God that he knows all the prior art in that matter.
But one of the most important element is the people's power. I believe in that. The people is the best shield against the pressure of transnational corporations and their home governments for developing countries. Developing country governments should understand that people are their friends, not enemies.